Hi everyone. Thank you for joining today's live Q&A conversation with Hanita to talk about South Asian food and recipes. Wherever you are, so glad to have you. And shortly here, Hanita is going to be joining us. She is born and raised in India, and she currently lives in New Jersey. So she is going to tell us all about Indian or South Asian food from her culture in India. And she is also the creator of Hanita's Kitchen. So if you would like to follow her, it is at Hanitas_kitchen. Welcome, Hanita. How are you today?
I'm great. Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And thank you so much for joining. It's such a pleasure to, share this passion for pesto, which is how we first met online.
Yes.
Then to discover so much more, the world of South Asia, your heritage in India, and not too far here. I'm in Pennsylvania, you're in New Jersey. So let's dive right in, Anita, and tell us about your endeavor in creating Hanita's Kitchen during a pandemic and what that's all about.
So, my passion for food comes through in everything I do. I love to eat food, cook food, feed people. And my older son has a whole lot of food allergies. So this actually started because of him. He was allergic to pine nuts. And when he outgrew his pine nut allergy, I said, you know what? I can start making pesto at home for him. And I started making small batches and giving to friends, and they loved it. And then I got requests, do you have some of your pesto? And I said, why not share this joy with other people? And I launched this, during the pandemic, and it's doing great. People love it. And I have a bunch of different flavors and, vegan versions. So I love it.
Wonderful. It's such a neat, solution to these complex issues and obstacles that we face with dietary restrictions, allergies, and things like that. And I think that's the beauty of pesto, right? Is it's a process. It's not specific ingredients. And so your ability to alter, for your son is really admirable.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And that's how I found you. I said, wow, here is Jessica. And I loved, your account and what you were doing with pesto. I started tagging you, and that's how we met. So here we are.
Awesome. And now here to talk about South Asian food and recipes. So Anita, give us a little background about, where you grew up and what that was like.
So I grew up in India. I'm from North India, Punjab, but my father, because of his job, moved around all of India. And so I grew up in East, West, North, South. So literally every 2 years we would move. And India is such a large, vast country. And the food and the cuisine and the culture and the language and dressing, everything changes. So I consider myself lucky that I got to actually live that and experience that and travel all around and truly, get to know the different states and cultures and cuisines. And my mom is a fabulous cook, as are my grandmothers. And so I think it became a part of our life, going to a new place and meeting new people, but also the food became, okay, what are we going to try now? What are we going to learn about this new venture? So I loved my experience, of growing up in all of India. So.
Very neat. And it's such a clear example here in the United States that you can't judge one country based on a certain area within that country on their cuisine. So tell us, as a kid, what were your favorite foods? When did you enter the kitchen? What was that like?
So when I was a child growing up, because my mom was such an amazing cook, I just was eating and not cooking. And I knew nothing about cooking till much later. And I was spoiled that way. But I think my favorite foods, and I had a very extensive palate because she tried and made so many different cuisines. And when I grew up in India, we didn't have, all these international restaurants and fast food joints. So I remember I loved, just the basic North Indian cuisine of lentils and rice and beans and even like the chicken, the tandoori chicken and all the marinations that she used to do. But she would also dabble in making pizza from scratch. So we had no pizza chains at that time when I was growing up in India. So she would her both her sisters live in Canada. So I think she got influenced learning from her sisters. She would make meat bolognese. She would make, pizza from scratch. And she would make, even like dabble in French food. She would not have half the ingredients. So I learned that if you don't have all the ingredients, it's okay. You can substitute. Food will still taste good. So just the fusion of things. So even when she would make the pizza, she would like put a little bit of the Indian twist to it. So I think my cooking, is inspired by my mother's cooking and my grandmother's cooking, which is all about going with the flow, using the ingredients you have, and fusion, integrating the different, things that you've experienced and learned in life and bring that on the table. So.
Great. And I think, when you're talking about that going with the flow, I'm wondering, what is the culture in India like? I'm thinking my own experience, here in the United States, especially you're familiar with the pace of New York. It's fast. But I had studied abroad in Italy, and it's very slow and laid back. And where does India fit in that range?
So I think it just depends. We have all of the above. We have the fast pace and the slow pace. And I think meal time is very important in India. I think that's when the family comes together. So the culture is, people live still in joint families. So you'll have the parents, the children, the grandparents, sometimes even the uncles and aunts, if not in the same house close by. So mealtime is like sacred time. And it's a time that people actually take a pause from whatever they're doing and sit together and share and cook together, eat together, share what happened during their day. So I think that's when you take it slow of just enjoying that, meal that how much effort went into preparing that. So I think that's when the slow pace comes in. But also when you're on the go, there are options. There's, so many different options, as in street food, fast food, Indian fast food, Western fast food. So that's where the fast pace comes in. So we have a little bit of everything going on.
Awesome. And tell us, what is Indian fast food like? Does it compare to our McDonald's here in the United
Oh
States?
my God, don't get me started on Indian fast food and Indian street food. It is so delicious. I crave it all the time. I try and recreate it in my kitchen. There's so many things. It's like typically a blend of sweet and savory and spicy. You have things called like golgappas and papri chaat and bhel puri. And so what they are like, crisp little balls made of flour. You poke holes, you put some chickpeas in it, potatoes, and a spicy blend of water. Once you have that, you can't turn back. It is so delicious. So when I go back to India, like I make a long list of what I want to eat. And then it's like I have two boys. And my boys make fun of me. Say, Mom, you become like a child in a candy store. I sit with my parents and I say, I want to eat this, 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 this. And I have a whole list of breakfast, lunch, and dinner because I want to like recreate my childhood and have all my favorites. And I want to expose my children to that also. So like I make a lot of that at home, or, I take them back. So it's just delicious, delicious, yummy food.
Very neat. And you speak of recreating it. So tell us, what have you felt like you've mastered recreating in terms of Indian street food here in your own kitchen?
So I make really delicious golgappas. So those, the little puffed up little, it's literally like balls of flour that are fried. And you poke holes in that and you put like a blend of chickpeas and potatoes. And then you make like a tamarind sauce and you make this spicy water with mint, cilantro, all the dry spices, chili. We have something called, garam masala, which is a blend of spices, lime juice, and you dip it in that, and it is out of this world. So I think I do a really good job of making that for my kids. And even like something like what you call aloo tikkis. You just boil aloos, mash it up, maybe put some peas in it, season it with maybe some onions, cilantro, green chilies, make little, small little cakes and like pan fry it and have it with a blend of, yogurt on top, tamarind chutney on top. And it's just delicious.
Sounds delicious. I'll definitely have to add that to my list.
Yes. Yes.
And you've repeated a couple ingredients here, so I'm curious, Anita, how would you describe tamarind to those who haven't tasted it before?
The tamarind is very sour, and the tamarind chutney that we make, it takes a whole lot of sugar.
Mm.
So I think the reason my boys love it, they don't realize how much sugar I have to put in that. So I, I basically, boil the tamarind in water, and I add some brown sugar, salt, chili, and we have a ginger powder, which you put in that. And it is so delicious. And you sprinkle that on a lot of things. Like we have a lot of savory yogurt dishes. So you'll have a lot of the street food, with the yogurt and the tamarind sauce and the mint chutney. So mint chutney is a combination of cilantro, mint, ginger, a little bit of garlic, and lime juice, and a little bit of water. But the tamarind sauce really like takes it up a notch because it's like sweet and pungent and like, tangy with a little bit of hint of chili. It's just delicious. So many like layers to it.
Yeah, yeah. And so many layers of just the culture too, right? That is, food is kind of like that universal language that people, no matter where they are, can get a little taste and understand India from that. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, Anita, kind of your perspective in India, what outside influences other South Asian countries have an influence on their culinary traditions?
Actually, a lot. I think, if you go back in history, um, we had a lot of invasions because India was called Sone ki Chiriya, which is Hindi, which means the golden bird, because we're rich in spices and we were a wealthy nation. So we had a lot of people from ancient times and different empires that like invaded India to take the spices and the wealth, and so they influenced us and we influenced them. So I think it was a two-way street. And in terms of even food, since we're talking about food, I remember when I lived in Calcutta, which is east of India, the Chinese food in particular. So I think we had lots of Chinese immigrants that came into India. So we have this Indian Chinese cuisine, which is, I know every country has their own version of, Chinese food takes a little twist. We have American Chinese, 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 Indian Chinese, but it is so delicious. It's like, the Hakka noodles, the Manchurian, cauliflower, and the sauces, and even the Malaysian food that came to India. I think it's just everything ends up having a lot of cilantro because I think that's the favorite herb that's used in India. And ginger and garlic, is pretty much used in every cuisine. And even the foods are very different, east, west, north, south. There's a common thread running through with basic ingredients. And I think at the base, you'll find, the cilantro, the chili, some bit of the ginger and the garlic. Some cultures don't use that, don't use onion, but in North India, where I'm from, that is the base of everything. The onions, ginger, garlic, tomato, that's what forms the base of all the curries and the sauces. So, yeah.
Wow. You're such a resource of Indian food knowledge and culture. It's amazing, and I never realized the significance of cilantro in the food. So,
Oh, yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yeah. If I don't have cilantro in my fridge, I panic. I always have cilantro in my fridge. Literally, like I feel there's a dish if I make an Indian cuisine, I said, if there's no cilantro, it does not taste the same. And I know a lot of people don't like cilantro. And, there are articles about it might taste different to different palates because any Indian household that you go in, you'll always find cilantro, and cilantro is used to garnish all Indian food, most of all Indian food.
Beautiful. And so let's, we talked about your time in India, the traditions and flavors, ingredients, street food. So let's now, Hanita, go forward to when you came to the United States. Was moving to the US your first experience of American food? And what was that transition like?
It wasn't. I think that's what, the beauty of it is because my mother cooked a lot and exposed us. Like I said, I actually, the first pizza I had was homemade pizza made by her. The first meat bolognese I had was made by her. And I've taken her meat bolognese and I think I've like added my own twist to it. And that is, my boys' favorite cuisine. That's their comfort food. Like if they say, what do you want, Mom? Let's just have, that. And hamburgers. So India, a lot of Indians are vegetarians, but many aren't. So I am not vegetarian, but you don't get beef in India. So Indians tend to use either chicken, a lot of chicken, or they'll use lamb, or they'll use goat meat. So the hamburgers we used to have would not be beef, but would be, lamb so I was exposed to a lot. And because I think a lot of my cousins and aunts and uncles were in the US and in Canada, so it wasn't like a culture shock, or it wasn't. So I think I was exposed to enough. I think the hardest thing for me was when I came here is I didn't learn how to cook from my mother. And I was missing all the Indian food, and I wanted to recreate the Indian food in America. And I said, where do I find that yummy, delicious, homemade Indian food? But the other was, not that hard to do or recreate or find.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So how did you branch out and find those, maybe it's appliances or kitchen tools and specific ingredients to then recreate those Indian classic dishes here?
So initially, actually, for many years, I would have a laundry list for my parents to bring for me from India. So when they would come, I would have a long list. Get me the pressure cooker. And we have something called a masala dabba. It's like, it's a container that has these small little, bowls in which you put different spices. And I wish I could bring that and show it to you. So in one little small container, you'll have turmeric, then you'll have chilies, then you'll have, crushed coriander, you'll have salt. So you have garam masala, what I was talking about earlier, which is a blend of 7-8 different spices. And in most Indian households, you'll find this, masala dabba. So you open that, and when you're cooking, you'll put a spoonful of the turmeric, a spoonful of the chilies, a spoonful of the garam masala. So I didn't have that. So I was saying, Mom, get that for me, and get the, pressure cooker for me, and and there's something called a tawa in which you make the breads, the rotis, and the specific ones that, I'm sure if I ventured out and went to the Indian stores here, I could have found all of it. But it was just the comfort level of saying, okay, she knows what I like, she'll find what I like, and she'll bring it here for me. So that's how I started. But now you go to Edison, New Jersey, or you go to any of these stores, it's all available here. So you don't have to venture far.
That's great. And what is, in a given week, how many nights do you find yourself cooking for your family classic Indian dishes, or doing those fusion recipes?
Indian food, I think maybe once or twice a week.
Okay.
It is more involved. My older son is more fond of Indian food than my younger one. So, and my older son is in college, and my younger son is in middle school. So when he comes home, in fact, he's coming home for spring break, he already has a long list. Mom, I want this, 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 this. So all his comfort favorite foods. I end up cooking more Indian food when he's around. And so I think on average, it would be twice a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite to cook, and what is your family's favorite to eat, if they're not the same?
So I think if you were to ask me, what is the one dish that you would have all the time, I would say dal chawal, which is rice and lentils. That is my ultimate comfort food, and it is the most delicious and the easiest to make. So anybody wants to Google that or find the recipe, make it and you won't be sorry. It is so delicious, nutritious. And in India, typically that's what a standard meal, at least in North India, is. Lentils, some vegetable, a roti, any piece of bread made with flour, or rice. And if you want a non-vegetarian dish, you would have a little chicken, or some goat meat, or some kebabs, or whatever. But the lentil and the vegetables. So I think my favorite or legumes would be rajma chawal, which is red kidney beans and rice, or lentils and rice, or Also stuffed parathas, which is the stuffed Indian flatbreads, and you stuff them with potatoes or you stuff them with cauliflower, and they're out of this world. They're so good.
Yummy. And for your sons, you know, the one who will come home from college, what is his number
His
one recommendation?
So his two favorite meals are rajma chawal, the one I just described, the red kidney beans and rice, and my meat bolognese and spaghetti. So like the meat
Mhm.
bolognese, I remember one time he got home like really late at night. I think it was 1 o'clock or 12, and the first meal he wanted was the meat bolognese and spaghetti. So that's his like ultimate comfort food.
Wow.
And then the the beans and rice.
Great. And I have to ask, you know, maybe people are wondering if they checked your account out and see all this pesto and delicious stuff, but you know, we're here talking about South Asian food. Have you ever found yourself incorporating pesto into a classic Indian dish?
All the time. Like I use, and like I said, my life is about fusion. And my boys and my family makes fun of me. If I see a recipe, I will not just make one recipe. I will like research 3 recipes for the same dish, and I'll take little pieces of everything and I'll make my own recipe. And then hopefully I'll remember what I did for the next time I make it. So I will use pesto all the time. I will use it as a dip. So Indians use a lot of chutneys and condiments. Like my fridge has so many condiments. I love, different flavors with the different foods I'm having. So we have different chutneys with cilantro or mint or peanuts or coconut. So pesto just to me feels like an extension of another condiment I'm using. So I'll of course use it in my eggs or in my pasta or in my panini, but I'll also use pesto with, a samosa, or like we have the snack called a papad, or with a roti. I actually made an Indian, it could also be called like a vegan omelet with chickpea flour, onions, tomatoes, cilantro, some jalapeno peppers, and you make a little pancake of that. And I put a dollop of pesto on top of it, and I make a jalapeno pesto. It was out of this world, so
Wow.
delicious. So yes, I do combine pesto with a lot of the Indian dishes as well.
I love that. Such a neat, you know, combination of flavors and processes, right? Pesto
Yes,
is that process.
yes, yes, yes. And but I think it's, yes, pesto is Italian, but I think about it, it's, basil and it's a nut and it's garlic and oil. And I think about the Indian chutneys, and, we have cilantro and we have mint and we use peanuts and we use lime juice and garlic. So yes, different flavors, but the concept is similar, right? As I think is with many different cuisines and cultures around the world.
Yeah, yeah, and we're getting some comments here, so I just want to call those out, Hanita. If you haven't seen them, we have people praising your cooking, Indian and non-Indian. Had someone earlier asking if they can find your pesto in New York City.
Yes. So I am in New Jersey, and so far I've been very local based, but I can ship. And, this is my pesto. And I try and use as many organic ingredients as I can. So it's mostly organic. And, I try and, this is a glass jar, everything that's good for the body, healthy. And I think a little pesto goes a long way. And, that you can DM me, get in touch with me, and I'm sure we'll figure out a way to get the pesto to you. And I can see someone here. I also I'm inspired by, my friends and their children. Some are allergic to milk, as was my son when he was younger, to make the vegan pesto, because I remember how hard it was for me to find things for my son when he was allergic. So it's always an inspiration to create delicious things with people who have food sensitivities or just don't want to have the dairy, to have like a vegan line for them with like delicious, options for them. So
Awesome. Well, hopefully you'll have some new orders coming in from this.
yes.
uh, so excited. And if you're just joining in or watching this part, check out Hanita's page. It's at Hanitas_kitchen, and some amazing pestos there, and also beautiful photos and recipes. So
I'm going to send some to you too. You should try my pestos. Yeah.
oh, I would love to. Thank you, Anita. And I also, you know, we're talking about all these savory foods and street food, dinner, things like that. So I do know that in South Asia, there is a unique presence of desserts. So Hanita, tell us about the dessert scene in your culture.
Oh, wow. We love our desserts and they're out of this world. They're very sweet, and, you know, dairy and nuts play a huge part in our desserts. So a lot of the desserts are dairy based, a lot of them, and nut based. So you have desserts like gulab jamun, which are like kind of like, not exactly, but kind of like fried donutty kind of little round brown balls, and you like soak them in sugar syrup, and the sugar syrup is infused with, you know, cardamom, saffron, rose water. So you can just imagine the taste when it's like freshly made. It's so good. And then you have something like jalebi, which are the little round swirls, orange, and then you deep fry them. Everything that's deep fried is delicious. I know I shouldn't say that, but and then again you soak that in the syrup as well. And then you have milk-based desserts like barfis and rasmalai, and I think, again, like I said, India is such a vast country. Every area has its own specialty, but I think I was talking about some of the desserts that are my favorite, which I love. So, and even like we have something called gajar ka halwa, which is very typical of North India, where I'm from. It's basically grated carrots that are cooked in milk, and then you put, you know, a lot of nuts in this, like slivers of almonds and, you know, some raisins, and my mouth is watering when I'm thinking about all those things.
It's kind of like you think of carrot cake.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
You know, carrots become that dessert.
Yes, but without the gluten and the flour. So yes, we have a lot of the sugar and the other calories coming from that end, but yeah, but no flour, but it's really delicious. Yeah.
Wow. And one thing that stood out to me as you were listing these different desserts was the barfi. And that is something I use in my Indian carrot pesto. I use that in coconut barfi, and it is,
oh wow,
it's really great. So yeah, if you haven't seen that, onceuponapesto.com/carrot pesto is where you'll find that.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Thank you. And last, Anita, I just want to open this up at the end here to kind of reiterate where people can find you, follow you, and what you have to offer in terms of pesto and recipes.
So, you know, it all came about from my love of food and creating something. It literally, I think my son is my inspiration for this. When he was younger, he couldn't really have so many things. I created this for him, and it's really been such a pleasant surprise for me, like how well it's been received, not just my circle of friends, but beyond. So right now, you know, since I just started last year, I had to deal with some health issues in the middle of last year. So I took a little pause, but now I'm back full swing. So, you know, they can DM me, I have an email, just get in touch with me. And I have different flavors. I have the original pesto, I have the sun-dried tomato pesto, I have the jalapeno pesto, and I have all versions available in vegan flavors also. But, you know, for now, I'm just limiting it to these 3 flavors. And if you have, you know, I feel there's always limited options in the vegan world. But if you have them and the taste, it's, you know, sometimes I'll make vegan just for our house, even though we all have dairy, and it's, you know, it's just delicious and out of this world. If I can say so myself, it's delicious.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Anita, for joining me today. And for everyone watching, you know, be sure to check out Hanita's page. It's at Hanita_kitchen, and you'll get some pesto inspiration. You'll learn some new recipes, and it's just been a pleasure learning about you and the culture that you grew up in all parts of India, the street food I'm dying to try, and you know, desserts, all the way back to those very nut and dairy based items. So thank you so much. And oh, I should mention the incorporation of pesto in Indian food.
Yes.
One should definitely check that out and experiment, because that is what cooking is all about. So Anita, thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly been my pleasure as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye now.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.